I have no feet, but I travel far, through fields and forests, under moon and star. I quench your thirst and help plants grow. From mountain to sea, I quietly flow. Beautiful, right? So who's speaking here? You guessed it, it's a river. Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're taking a seriously fascinating look at the life cycle of a river, using this incredible riddle as our jumping-off point. The chapter we're exploring today doesn't just throw dry facts at us, it actually invites us to step into the shoes, or rather, the waters, of the river itself.
In this explainer, we're unpacking the journey of a river. We're going to map out the complete life cycle of the Godavari River, pulling right from our source chapter. We'll explore where it begins, how it literally sustains human life, the modern threats it's facing, and some absolutely crucial safety measures for when its waters become either way too abundant or, scary enough, far too scarce. I really love how this chapter structures its information, and we're going to break the whole thing down step by step.
Here's our quick roadmap for today's journey. 1. The birth of a river. 2. How rivers help us. 3. The pollution problem. 4. Surviving river floods. And finally, number 5, when rivers run dry.
Section 1. The birth of a river.
Okay, let's dive into this. The Godavari actually introduces itself in the text, giving us this cool first-person perspective on its birth. Now, massive rivers, they don't just magically appear massive. The Godavari's journey begins high up in the Western Ghats, at Trimbakeshwar, in Maharashtra, as just a simple, pristine, tiny stream in the mountains. It's quiet, it's small, and man, it has a very long way to go.
So how exactly does that tiny little stream become a mighty river? Well, that brings us to a core geographical concept, the tributary. As the Godavari moves across the land, rainwater and other, smaller streams join up with it. These little side streams are its tributaries. Think of them as essential feeders that all combine together, making the main river wider, deeper, and just so much stronger as it carves its path across the landscape.
And we have to talk about the sheer scale of this journey. 1,465. That is the number of kilometers the Godavari travels across India before finally pouring into the Bay of Bengal. To put that into perspective, that incredible distance makes it the second longest river in India, right after the Ganga. Just imagine the shifting landscapes, the totally different communities, and the vast ecosystems it encounters over those 1,465 kilometers.
Section 2. How rivers help us.
You know, to sustain our civilizations, human intervention happens on a staggering scale. Get this, there are over 900 dams built to store the water of the Godavari. Over 900. We store this water so that communities don't just dry up when the dry seasons hit. We're literally altering the river's natural flow just to secure our own survival.
And what exactly are we doing with all that stored water? Well, we rely on it for drinking, irrigating crops, and generating electricity. It gives fishermen a livelihood, provides pathways for boats, and supports these incredible natural ecosystems, like the Hills of Fish, which literally travels all the way from the sea into fresh river waters just to lay its eggs. Honestly, when you turn on your tap, it's kind of hard to fathom the epic journey and the massive sacrifices made just so you can have that water. And that right there is exactly why we've got to use it wisely and never, ever waste it.
Moving on to Section 3, the pollution problem. And this brilliantly illustrates the darker part of our journey. As more people and factories settle along the riverbanks, waste, plastic, and dirty water inevitably find their way right into the current. The river in our chapter actually laments that sometimes it doesn't smell or look clean anymore. Yet, people still have to rely on this water, which tragically can lead to severe sickness downstream. It is a stark, unavoidable reminder that our actions have direct, harmful consequences on the public health of these communities.
Section 4. Surviving river floods.
So what happens when a river breaches its banks? Having a framework for safety here is absolutely crucial. The chapter breaks survival down into 3 highly structured phases: before the flood, during the flood, and after the flood. Let's walk through the specific, life-saving steps for each one.
Before the flood even hits, preparation is literally everything. You need to stay informed through local news and have a disaster emergency bag packed with the essentials. We're talking food, medicines, flashlights, the whole shebang. If you live in a flood-prone area, you should keep useful items handy at home, like sandbags, a ladder, and a rope. But listen, the absolute most critical before step? Know your evacuation routes and leave the area before the flooding actually starts. Don't wait around.
Okay, but what if you're caught during the flood? There are some hard and fast rules here. You must avoid any contact with the floodwater, absolutely no swimming in it. And whatever you do, never, ever touch downed power lines because the risk of electrocution in floodwaters is incredibly high. The focus right now is strictly on avoiding physical hazards.
Finally, we hit the after phase. Once the waters recede, the danger isn't entirely gone. First step, communicate with your family to let them know you're safe. Then, when authorities say you can finally go back home, you can't just settle right back in. It is absolutely vital to thoroughly clean and disinfect every single surface and item in your house. Remember all that pollution we talked about earlier? Yeah, floodwater carries all that bacteria, so strict sanitation is key to preventing disease after the disaster.
And that brings us to Section 5, when rivers run dry.
Now, while floods are terrifying and destructive, a dried-up river is honestly just as devastating, just in a slower, more creeping kind of way. When a river stops flowing, it completely wreaks havoc on communities. Think about the basic daily stuff we just take for granted. Without the river, bathing, drinking, cooking, and cleaning, they become practically impossible. It forces people to literally pack up and travel vast distances just to scrounge for the basic resources required for survival. It brings every single aspect of daily human life to a grinding halt.
I want to wrap up this explainer by throwing a pretty powerful, direct question your way. Straight from the text. Take a second and just imagine your day without water. Sounds tough, right? What would you do if you had no water in your home for an entire day? What if there was no water for a week? How would you bathe, or drink, or cook, or clean? Where would you even go? It's a heavy thought, but it brings this entire epic journey of the river right to our own front doors, challenging us to deeply respect and conserve every single drop. Thanks so much for joining me on this journey.